Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gugulethu Mahlangu. I am an NGIN ambassador. I'm also a small-scale farmer from South Africa, and I'm going to be your moderator today as we launch the Science2Seed. And I'm particularly very excited because today we're going to be speaking about biotechnology and the role of science communication, particularly from the youth. I am joined by my lovely panelist speakers today, and I'm going to let them introduce myself. I will start with Johannes Rossouw, JD. He is the Senior Vice President of Vegetables R&D from Bayer Crop Science. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And secondly, we're joined by our lovely Ebunoluwa Ajobiewe. She's the NGIN co-chair for 2024. Welcome, Ebun.
Thank you, Gugulethu.
I'm going to start with biotechnology. I know a lot of people keep hearing biotech, but what is biotech exactly? We have farmers here, we have legislation, we have policy. I think it's time we define what biotech is. And I'm going to hand it over to you, JD.
Thank you, Gugu. So biotechnology at its core is really a technology platform that helps companies like us solve big problems for growers. So if you start thinking about a problem we're trying to solve, whether that's a weed control system or an insect control system that really needs to be disruptive to help a grower to be successful and tackle all the stress with the environment puts on their crops, biotechnology is just another tool that helps us solve that problem. And if you look at how you actually bring biotechnology to market, you have to combine it with a really strong genetic library on genetics. You also need to combine it with a very intense and broad testing footprint to generate data from the field on how the technology will perform in a farmer's field, his or her around the world. And then you need to use data and scientists to be able to put it into a product. And at its core, that's really what biotechnology is. It's just another tool in the toolbox for us as seed companies and industry, private and public, to solve big challenges growers have around the world. And I want to mention growers means smallholder farmers, large growers in different parts of the world, very similar challenges.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that definition. Ebunoluwa, I'm going to come to you as NGIN co-chair. Could you please tell us the role of science communication? We've heard what biotechnology is, but we need people to kind of explain that and communicate scientific words in a way that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
So can you explain that for us?
Well, thank you for that question. And it's great that you mentioned NGIN, because I don't know if all of our viewers or people, following this live stream, or people that are just hanging here in the studio, understand what the Next Generation Ag Impact Network is all about. And this is a very good question you asked about, science being behind whatever we're doing, because NGIN, the Next Gen Ag Impact Network, is a multi-stakeholder network, a global network that is actually, backed by science. And it is a global youth network for the youth and by the youth to ensure that we adopt these approaches that are, backed by science, like I said before, but ultimately aimed, the ultimate mission is to be able to achieve prosperous and sustainable future for agriculture. And how do we do this? We have different principles and objectives, but as we said, we make sure that whatever we're doing is backed by science and aligned behind the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And as we are here today at the Science2Seed Launch, I'm really excited because it is an initiative that has been born out of NGIN. We are quite young, but we have a lot of innovation. We're not short of ideas in NGIN. And this is one of the initiatives that has been born out of the network to make sure that we're able to bridge the gap between scientific advancements and public perceptions, public understanding. And since we have a few moments, I'd like to invite one of the founding members of the Science2Seed, who, they have come up with this very innovative approach to communicating science, which is, as JD has said, very important. And I'd like to call upon our friend, he's in the studio, to tell us what is the vision and how did Science2Seed come about.
Oh yeah, thank you, Ebun. And first of all, I must tell that how excited I am right now. Like, I cannot describe it. And what foremost, I want to thank my colleagues to make this possible today, because it's kind of dream for me right now to see all of my colleagues. We've been working on this, we've been playing on this, and we also have our plan for the future. So I cannot thank all of you enough, and also I cannot thank NGIN for supporting us all the time since the beginning, and also the ISF to making this launch possible here. So basically, there are so many science communication groups globally, of course. So what makes us different is we are so diverse, ethnically, like country, regionally, and we also have different backgrounds. We just we have everything we need to become science communicators. So we just don't want to talk about science to people or post things on social media and try to hope something will change. We want to communicate with the people who are using or who are going to use this technology or who are going to cultivate these crops directly. So we want to see the real impact by communicating with science. We just don't want to stay or stuck in social media platforms. And then, then I want to give some words to my colleague Naila, my co-chair actually, yeah.
Thank you so much, Alperen. I have nothing to add to to that, apart from the only fact that I can only encourage all the youth, not only the NGIN youth, but also all the other youth who are out there passionate about science, passionate about agriculture, to seek opportunities to speak about what you do and how that impacts livelihoods and communities. So thank you for this youth-led initiative. It's fully youth-led. It's a young idea, it's a youth-led idea, and we'll all be waiting for the implementation. So very excited about that. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. And I guess this is the launching moment of Science2Seed. So at this moment, I will just encourage everyone. When I say Science2Seed, you say we are planting a scientific dialogue. Science2Seed.
We are planting a scientific dialogue.
So a round of applause as
applause.
we launch Science2Seed. Thank you so much for your participation. So
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for being a part of NGIN Ambassador. It shows us that the youth are actually ready to tackle biotechnology, to tackle the seed industry, and most importantly, science communication, so that everyone feels included. I'm going to come to you, JD, because as you can see, the youth are present and we are launching Science2Seed. When it comes to the role of Bayer, how do you communicate your innovations that are backed by science so that people can find resources, because when it comes to biotech, there's so many misconceptions and myths, especially around GMO. So can you give us a guideline? Where do we go to get the facts?
Yeah, so first of all, for those of you that are online, it's amazing the amount of energy that's sitting in front of us with the launch. So congratulations to each of you for doing it. And I think this is one of the foundational pieces, is getting more than just the technology provider to talk about the impact of what a platform like biotechnology, genome editing in the future can bring to life to solve problems. Information-wise, I think over the last 3 decades, since we got the first commercial crops cultivated around the world from biotechnology, we've learned quite a bit. I think we stumbled as an industry where we said, well, we're going to let the science tell the story for us. And I think where we are now as an industry and also in Bayer is to be part of that conversation. Having the tough conversations about the questions we get around biotechnology. And it's not me and you, and it's not always farmers that wants the information. It's us when we go home, when we buy vegetables or when we buy crops that was used for animal feed that come from biotech. We want to understand what it means and how that was done in a very sustainable way and the safety of it, correct? That's why part of the approval of a biotechnology crop is the regulations in a country where you have to go for human, animal and environmental studies to be able to get a product approved. And as a company, we were trying to be much more transparent the last few years by putting this information in the public domain. Now, it could be intimidating if you're a non-scientist looking at the reports, but there's also versions of that tells the story in a much more simplistic way for non-scientists, and then unlocking the opportunity to have the conversation, to lead from an opinion into a fact-based conversation and then start looking at the science behind it. We always, as an industry, publish annual reports on biotechnology and GMOs around the world. We also share it on our websites and just visiting customers. If there's one thing I can wish we can do every single day is take people from around the world to go and visit a small farmer in Kenya, a farmer in the US, and understand exactly what their challenges are and how biotechnology and the future technology solve the problems he or she has on their farms.
And it's just like you said, it's about the people, that it's at the end, it's about the people.
Exactly.
And this is what we mean when we say communication as well, is that dialogue exists. It's not just introducing, but then you follow up and you see how it's progressed.
Absolutely. And my next question comes to you, Ebunoluwa, when it comes to communication and debunking and communicating science and biotech in a way that everyone can relate to. What is your role at NGIN as co-chair when it comes to communicating that?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. And I would say, first, from a personal perspective, as a young person, because like you've heard, NGIN is a young network. And I always would advocate, first of all, we say that we commit to act before we call to action. So that means that as a young person, I put myself in challenging situations. I put myself in places where I'm able to get knowledge. That's why we have a huge delegation of of course, we want them to be huger, but we have a young delegation here at the ISF because we want to also interact and learn. So this is how NGIN places young people in global policy spaces and spheres where we can interact, where we can actually expand our horizons and understand how these systems work. And one thing that came to my mind is that everyone has a different approach, how they understand it. Like we said that we are a network, a diverse network of farmers, researchers, etc. And personally, I am doing a doctorate in plant health. So in that sense, I'm able to connect more. But what about someone who has no background in this? In that exchange, when we come together under the same roof, that it creates an environment where we can really understand different perspectives about how is this application, how is it really making an impact. One of the things that excites me the most in this conversation is that the fact that in the end, it is connected to the livelihoods. For example, when we talk about seeds that have been improved for pest and diseases resistance, because plant health, we're talking about crop protection, we're talking about viruses that are affecting plants, we're talking about bacteria, nematodes. I'm specializing in plant parasitic nematodes research. So I understand that sometimes the farmers might be, how do you say, a little bit disturbed by the losses that they're experiencing. But if you're able to say, I understand this, I can assure you, like JD said, I can assure you that research has gone into this, so you don't have to be skeptical about using improved seed. I can assure you that it takes time and testing over and over again. This is in these ways you're debunking, and you're able to communicate that because you understand. So it's that exchange. And in NGIN, like you said, we have, opportunities, webinars, we have leadership sessions, building capacity in our ambassadors who in turn, have a ripple effect on their peers in their community. And through our social platforms as well. So please follow Science2Seed on social media.
Absolutely. Please do follow Science2Seed. I'm glad that you spoke about and touched about farmers and being Science2Seed being the factual youth-led initiative where the farmers can feel like this information is, first of all, viable and it's fact-based. I'm going to come to you, JD, when it comes to how can biotechnology impact the farmers, particularly small-scale farmers in low, middle-income countries. From a person who comes from South Africa, it's really important that biotechnology also reaches us and impacts us in a way that progresses the seed industry.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty about biotechnology, correct? And also our responsibility as the seed industry is to bring those technology not only to large-scale farmers in the more developed part of the world, but across the whole spectrum. As you mentioned, low-income, smallholder farmers, even subsistence farmers. But as we know, correct, if you look at Africa specifically, where all three of us are from, the challenge for growers or farmers sometimes is beyond access to the seed. It's the access to credit, infrastructure, the ability to sell their crops, the ability to store crops, correct? So these are a very complex network of ecosystem things that you have to address to get the technology out there. As a company, as an industry, we do launch biotechnology products in countries where we have the right regulatory approval process. And there are countries around the world, like the Philippines, which is smallholder farmers, South Africa, where we're from, where we have biotechnology approved also for smallholder farmers, and then other countries in Africa which are making progress towards that direction. So getting access, getting those products out there. But I think it's important to also talk about a few examples of these technologies that's coming that can really impact these type of growers around the world.
Thank you so much for that. And I love how you mentioned that basically the seed industry needs the value chain. It's not just farmers, it's regulators, it's policymakers. And when it comes to Science2Seed, Ebunoluwa, we are blessed, I think, to have the youth in those spaces. We have lawyers, we have nutrition specialists, we have PhD doctorates. So when it comes to the variety of voices from Science2Seed, where do you see Science2Seed in the next 5 years?
Wow, that's awesome question because it makes me dream that it will really take off. It's already taken off at this launch, and like you said, the diversity behind the network in this on which it stands, But of course, we always would need, to work together, to collaborate. That's why intergenerational dialogues like this is very important because then we can exchange insights. So if we have lawyers, like you said, we're able to show how intellectual property rights and all of those complicated things can be made digestible into small digestible pieces for people to understand, which is where we're going to be understanding our audience much more and, evolving from there. So really, it's full of potential, really full of potential. But we want to make sure that we're keeping the objective right at the very front of our eyes. Is we're all working towards making sure that agriculture is sustainable and prosperous in the nearest future. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it, just as an NGIN ambassador, but also as the youth, to see that we are being active in all spheres. They can't say that the youth is not active. So thank you so much, Ebunoluwa, for that. JD, I'm going to come to you with just like an interesting question here. Why do we need science communication to address the potential of biotech? What advancements has Bayer made in the communication side?
Yeah, I think it comes back to be really transparent. As I mentioned, we learned quite a bit the last 3 decades as an industry, but also as Bayer. I mean, we were earlier on in the launch of the first biotech trait for corn and soybeans in 1996. We sort of trust the science, and we thought the science is going to tell a story for us. So we've made a lot of progress to be much more transparent. But let me take you to maybe 2 or 3 examples and show you how we should tell that story and see and articulate the value it can bring. So one of the products that we will launch in the next few years is Precision Smart Corn for US and European growers at this point. And there's 3 ways we are attacking that product concept. One is for traditional breeding, one is for gene editing that we've learned a lot about this week, and also from a biotechnology perspective. And from a biotechnology perspective, it's a collaboration with our partner BASF, and we've already tested it with about 365 farmers across the US and Europe. And this product concept, its core, it solves the fundamental biggest challenge a grower has, and that's really lodging in his or her cornfield or maize field around the world. The plant height is much shorter, and then also the application of fungicides and chemistry. It helps the grower to be much more targeted in the approach on that. And that's solving a very sustainable, reducing the input and help growers to be much more profitable. The second example is around gene editing. We just announced yesterday that we signed an agreement with G-Flas from South Korea, and that gene editing targeting is solving a global issue for all of us, and it increased the vitamin D levels in tomato to address that need that we have around the world. And again, it's an example of where we think about a big disruptive solution we need to find, and how do you find the technology, and in this case, biotechnology and genome editing to solve that problem for not only a grower, his or her field, but also for the industry and for the end consumer. So these are examples of how you pull the communication and make it really simple so people can see the connection to my plate of food that I'm consuming or the crop that they drive past that they see out there in the field.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want tomatoes that are going to be rich in vitamins. So thank you for that advancement to Bayer. I'm going to move over to you, Ebun, and I'm going to just throw a curveball here. Describe maybe one exciting advancement. Let's say you had the opportunity to alter seeds. What trait would you add into that has a superpower?
A superpower. Wow. Yeah, I guess it's always going to be about nutrition. So, you know how that a child needs different classes of food. How about we put everything together into one,
Fantastic.
and then the child just has it all at once. So really something that is really fast, that saves us time. I would really like that.
That is absolutely fantastic. I have one last question before you maybe would like to announce a surprise for Science2Seed, or basically tell people where to catch us.
Yeah.
The last question that I have here is, how do we address public concerns and skepticism regarding biotech in agriculture? Maybe I can come to you, Ebun, about that.
Well, I was just trying to refresh. Well, you know that most times we've talked about how that we want agriculture to be attractive and sexy, like we use that word balance. But we've always said that it's important for us to communicate and to also show that it can be profitable. So when we're able to show that there is yield improvements or yield increases with improvements in biotechnology, in terms of improved seeds, for example, we're able to communicate also that there's risk assessment efforts that go into production, into this new biotechnology that is being introduced. We're able to communicate and begin to debunk and change the public perceptions that people have towards this. So I think that proper education and really making sure there was something that was said at the last panel that was held in Doc Fern, is that there is innovation in communication. So it's not just saying that, okay, these are the only ways that we should go, but we have to start from, we have to take different routes. So if we want to change something, we have to take different routes. So, for example, going to the youngsters. So we are youth. What about we go to the youngsters and start from there?
Yeah.
And so that they understand that this, they can relate right from the young stages. So catching them young at that point. So taking different approaches, that's the power of the youth, and we really would like to leverage. And we want to work in NGIN and through the Science2Seed initiative to explore different options, different ways in which we can communicate, in which we can change perception. So like hosting, different things. I'm sure that the Science2Seed group will always have ideas for that. But at this point, it will be really important for us to also highlight that there's always the need to support us. So I love the examples that JD has given. Sometimes we've had, these kind of sessions where executives and people that are working at Bayer, is a very important board member of NGIN, has come and really told us what they are doing. And I think this is important for the young people to understand what is actually being done and what are the approaches that are being applied in terms of sustainability, in terms of making sure that things are being done the way that it should be done.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
No, thank you so much for that. And I love how you said innovation and communication, and how this conference has allowed us, especially the youth, to really get in touch with the execs from Bayer. So I'm going to also pass the question to you, JD. How do we address public concerns and skepticism around biotech?
Yeah, I think it comes down to all of us, correct? As an industry, we need to take hands and we need to help tell that story. And what I do like about today is you guys are getting the youth involved, correct? Because you will see in the industry for the next 30, 40 years, and we'll be cheering you on from the sideline when you're going to drive this space. And all of us, across generations, across geographies, across private, public sector, we all can tell and help tell the story and help the skepticism out there and show that the science solves real-world challenges of things that relates to food security, nutrition, and help that becomes the focus of the industry.
Well, thank you.
I would like to add to that also, if we have a little bit more time, is that in addition to Bayer that I mentioned, we also have other board members that have, been contributing their own specializations to ensure that young people have the capacity to be able to communicate science better. And so we always would need, more support. Partnerships were open to growing. And so if anyone wants to join the Science2Seed initiative, it's open, and you can reach out to us.
Absolutely.
And definitely.
Please maybe tell everyone here, where can they catch Science2Seed?
They can catch Science2Seed on Instagram, but through the NGIN website, www.nginag.org, and then on Instagram as NextGenInAg_. Just type NGIN, you'll find us. But definitely reach out to all of us. We are active on LinkedIn, everywhere, Twitter. Yeah.
Absolutely, we are active. Thank you so much to JD. Thank you for your continuous support. And I love how you say you will be cheering the youth from the sidelines, and we will definitely be learning from you. Ebunoluwa, you're an amazing co-chair.
Thank you, Gugu.
Thank you so much to everyone
Thank
who
you.
joined us.
Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you.